the Toastmaster program, meeting roles and responsibilities. Robyn?
You're muted.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. Tonight's presentation is going to be scintillatingly fun because it's ultimately prepared by Toastmasters. So we know that'll be fun just right out of the gate. The topic is, of course, meeting roles and responsibilities. There are a number of meeting roles that go into putting on a successful meeting. And of course, those roles have to be filled by you, by me, and by everybody. And I thought today would be a great opportunity to go through and just touch on what each role is and how it contributes to the successful running of a meeting. As a reminder, clubs do have a mission to provide a supportive environment for members to develop their communication and leadership skills. Our clubs don't just happen, it does take a team. Of course, we have the Toastmaster, and it says assigned meeting roles. We generally don't assign meeting roles in any of the clubs that I've been a part of. And in this club, we don't assign them. We ask for volunteers, and we might volunteer somebody, but if they need to back out, then they can back out. Some clubs I hear, at least around the world, they do assign the roles. The Toastmaster, Topicsmaster, we have speakers, general evaluator, speech evaluators, timer, grammarian, counter, and there are some other roles as well which I'll get to in a little bit, but most of these roles allow us the opportunity to practice several important skills, such as listening, paying attention to the minutia of the meeting, the details, standing up and speaking without much preparation. If you look at these roles, the majority of them involve impromptu speaking. And they help us be aware of how we fit into the whole meeting teamwork that goes on with our successful meetings. The Toastmaster of the meeting is the ringleader of the meeting. They get to plan the meeting. They get to pick the theme, usually in consultation with at least the Topicsmaster, but ultimately, at least in this club, it appears that the Toastmaster of the meeting picks the meeting theme. As part of that planning of the meeting, they reach out to the members to fill the meeting roles if it's not filled at the prior meeting. And this is in conjunction with the VP of Education and the General Evaluator. Everybody has a role to play, and it is a role to play meshed in with other people. Also, we as Toastmaster of the meeting confirm people who've already volunteered. And this particular club, we mark that by using an asterisk on the club schedule. And then we get to the meeting, and as Toastmaster, we lead the meeting. We are the MC, we get to introduce all the different meeting segments, and then we get to introduce the speakers and develop our theme. Transitioning between segments is an opportunity for the Toastmaster to weave their theme in throughout the entire meeting. I have seen some clubs where the Toastmaster will have developed the theme and then involved the speakers and woven the theme into the speaker's introduction. Usually the speaker has to cooperate with that endeavor. And then the Toastmaster also, of course, explains the meeting process for the benefits of any guests and newer members, people who don't understand what they're observing. Topicsmaster, question and answer time. The Topicsmaster coordinates with the Toastmaster about the theme and how much time they have to be able to ask questions. They plan the questions, usually simple, easy to understand, generalized topics that don't require specialized knowledge. They explain the rules for table topics, and again, transition between the speakers, generally with a 15-second recap of the prior answer, and then lead into the next question. Table Topics has the opportunity to be loads of fun. There are a variety of ways that you can run the Table Topics session. The types of questions do depend on the club. Specialty clubs get specialty questions. I was at a club meeting in Dallas, Texas last Friday night, and the name of the club is Politically Incorrect. The Table Topics questions supported the club name. All the questions could be taken two ways. It was a lot of fun, but that may not be the appropriate type of questions to ask in a more conservative club. Creative ideas include collecting a bunch of photos and asking the participants to describe the photo, or creating a sales pitch, doing a grab bag where you grab an item out and have to describe it, using quotes and letting people describe what they think when they hear that quote. There's a variety of ways to spice up Table Topics. Speakers, of course, this is a pretty routine part of the meeting. It's one of the key parts. Speakers get to plan. You pick your topic, write your speech, practice beforehand, give your evaluator your evaluation sheet ahead of time, deliver your speech, and of course, receive feedback. So I'm not going to spend too much time on because I'm pretty sure we all have a really good grasp of what's involved in being the speaker. The general evaluator. This is actually one of my favorite roles. It challenges me the most. The general evaluator is in charge of the evaluation team. They coordinate that part of the meeting team, organized with the Toastmaster and the Vice President of Education. General evaluator can reach out to the team, make sure they understand their roles ahead of time, walk them through it. If we have any handy dandy cheat sheets, we can share those as well. We can share the forms necessary to complete the role. And I'm basing all of this based on Zoom meetings at this point, not in-person meetings where we have the forms at hand. The general evaluator, in consultation with the Vice President of Education, can pair the evaluator with the speaker, connect them, encourage them to talk to each other before the meeting. I think we all who were in attendance remember Monica and Cindy's presentation about the art of effective evaluation, where it's important to connect and talk with your evaluator and speaker beforehand. And then in the meeting, the general evaluator gets to introduce their team, giving each person on the team the opportunity to explain their own role. And then evaluating. The general evaluator gets 2 to 3 minutes at the end of the evaluation session, in this particular club, before the timer, I believe, to give their own evaluation of the meeting. I'll get to that in just a second. So you're introducing who, what, when. You get to introduce your team. So you're going to introduce the people evaluating the speakers, and then hopefully they have the objectives of the speech, which they can read off, and let the club know what the speakers are working on. And this is normally after the education moment, is when this session, this part of the introduction happens. Introduce the awe counter, the timer, and the grammarian. So I mentioned that as general evaluator, you get 2 to 3 minutes to be able to give an evaluation of the meeting. If we think it's challenging to give a 2 to 3 minute evaluation of a 5 to 7 minute speech, think about giving a 2 to 3 minute evaluation of an hour-and-a-half long meeting. That's pretty challenging to sum up 90 minutes in 2 to 3. I sometimes think the general evaluator's evaluation should be 5 to 7, because we do try to cram a lot of information into that 2 to 3 minutes. But as general evaluator, you get to evaluate the meeting as a whole. You get to evaluate, did we start on time? Did we progress? Did we lose track of time and have to catch up? How did the Toastmaster do introducing their theme? Did you have any suggestions on ways to either simplify the process or smooth it out if there were any rough bumps? Get to talk about table topics. Were the questions appropriate for the club? Or is there a different format that might have worked better for the table topic session? And then we get to evaluate the speech evaluators. And it's not a 2 to 3 minute evaluation of each evaluator, but it is just some high points, commenting on what the evaluators did well. For example, giving comments that all the speech evaluators used the sandwich method, giving praise, giving a suggestion, and ending with more praise. Or you can give a suggestion that it can be, for example, one suggestion I've given in the past to General Evaluator is that it can be helpful for the speakers if the speech evaluators personalize their evaluation and explain why they're making the suggestion and how it would change the reception of the speech. And so that's something that the General Evaluator can do as well, giving, and that's important because it gives everybody that feedback, even if they were not the ones giving the evaluation. One reason this role is particularly important now is because we no longer have the Competent Leader Manual. For those who remember, the Competent Leader Manual allowed everybody to get written feedback when they filled a meeting role, and now we don't have that. So if the General Evaluator can step in and give even 20 seconds worth of feedback for each meeting role holder, everybody can improve their participation in the meetings. Speech evaluators, we heard a wonderful presentation by Cindy and Monica, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but you get to touch base with your speaker before the meeting, get their evaluation form, find out what that speaker is looking for. Cindy did that with me this afternoon, and that's why she was able to mention that I said, hey, focus on my slides. Were they effective? Were they not effective? Because I can't see you. I don't know if you can see me, so you could also base your evaluation on my vocal variety. You get to evaluate and assess how the presentation went, make comments, and personalize it. The grammarian, this is one that really challenges our active listening skills because we have to listen to everybody, and we're really working on improving our grammar. And we get to expand our vocabulary. The grammarian brings the word of the day. And I have seen some clubs that put it in the chat box, some share their screen to show it so people can see it visually. We saw it today where they held it up to the camera, give the definition. And these are generally going to be words that we can use in everyday language that may have gone by the wayside, but that are still good words to use. It's the idea is to expand our vocabulary. And then we're going to report on proper and improper use of the English language and suggestions to how to improve. I was not an English major, so my improper use of grammar is not the high focus of my grammarian reports, but it's there. Here's a challenge for all grammarians. Spice it up. See if you can include the theme or include puns in your report. An example I saw recently was when you're reporting on the number of sews, you could say something along the lines of, we had a great sewing circle today with these participants who had X number of sews. I guess skipped one. There we go. Counter, it's kind of self-explanatory. You get to explain the role, count the number of verbal pause fillers, and these kind of change from club to club, but at the bare minimum, and there's some others we like to track, you knows, likes, double clutches, which is where you start a word or sentence and then you redo it. And don't be afraid to report the hard numbers. If somebody has 100 ahs, okay, I could see kind of, evening that out a little bit. It's important that the speakers, all of us as speakers, know how we're doing with our verbal pause fillers because they become distracting. How many of you have watched politicians on TV and every fifth word is an It becomes distracting and it decreases the impact of their message. So it's okay to be honest and tell us how we did. And the timer, Robert says it's the hardest role, and it kind of is, because You're so engrossed in what you're listening to, you forget to watch the time. But you're going to coordinate with the speakers ahead of time and then time them and report at the end of the meeting. There are some additional roles. Presenter of Invocation, if we have that. Joke Master, which we do have. Vote counter, I don't believe this club uses that, but if we were voting on anything, then we would have a vote counter. Parliamentarian, we don't have that here either. And the last thing TI says I should include in this presentation is club officer meeting roles. The club does not lead itself either. We have a wonderful executive team. We have the president, vice president of education, public relations, membership, secretary, treasurer, and last but certainly not least, sergeant at arms. All of these are crucial to leading a club to success, because if the club has a strong executive team, the members go along, they get their goals met, and the club is successful. It's a team effort. Clubs don't run themselves. And even if you don't think you are ready, please sign up for a new role next week. Your club members, all of us, we will support you. We are here to learn and practice. And if we don't step out of our comfort zone, we can't move forward. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Robyn.